Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane has approached the Western Cape High Court. This, of course, is in a bid to interdict Parliament from moving ahead with its impeachment inquiry. Now, last month, Parliament decided to move ahead with its inquiry despite Mkhwebane's rescission application. Now, in her court papers, she also wants the Western Cape High Court to prevent the President, who is listed as a respondent in her papers, to be barred from taking any steps to suspend her. Now, Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane joins me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Bongiwe.
I'd like us to begin with something you tweeted earlier on today. Given the work of the office and what you've done, over 400 reports, have been finalized. And I'd like us to take a look at, some of that, because obviously you talk about some of the clean audits, and it's the second one now. I mean, 412 reports. I can't even begin to imagine if the investigators were not sleeping at all, because this is a lot. I mean, when you look at the work that you've had to do. So surely, for you, this must feel like some kind of victory.
Definitely it is, especially for the people at the grassroots, especially for what we are meant to do as an institution, how we impact the people at the grassroots, how we change people's lives, because they approach the public protector because they've lost hope into the various government departments and public servants. So they come to us as an office which will give them that hope back. So we have worked with the team, Bongiwe, and as you've seen that a lot of the complaints which we receive are bread and butter issues, and a lot of the complaints are investigated by our investigators in the various provinces, and we resolve a number of them through an alternative dispute resolution mechanism, especially through the process of conciliation, a process of mediation between the parties. So the 412 reports are the ones which they investigate and they adjudicate on them, and then those ones reach my desk, where then we have to issue a formal report with remedial action.
Now, at the same time, I remember when you did, the road shows of the 9 provinces, I can't help but zoom into one province, for example, the Free State, where you even had to speak a lot about some of the remedial action that was not being implemented, and the situation unfortunately unfolded in various other provinces too. How much of a setback is it when the remedial action is not put in place?
It is a setback, Bongiwe, because we are meant to support and strengthen constitutional democracy. And if our reports are implemented, a number of maladministration, issues of good governance would be resolved, because for instance in the Free State, those reports which are not implemented, they relate, especially a lot of them relates to municipalities, where municipalities have failed to implement our reports, where we have found that there's irregular appointment of staff, where we found that there's a delay to provide RDP houses, issues relating to service delivery. I must indicate that almost all the provinces, there was an issue of some of the reports which we've issued have not been implemented, and that leads to a situation where whoever is a person who's working in a municipality, various government departments, HODs, when I normally say, when you are appointed as an HOD, as an accounting officer, your starting point is to know how many reports were issued by the public protector, which we need to learn from AG, how many reports have been issued by them, so that we can learn and not repeat the impropriety, because that's the most important thing of the remedies which we issue. Unfortunately, around the provinces, that's what we've picked up. But I need to indicate that one of the provinces which also has implemented our remedial action, which was very encouraging, was in Gauteng, and where the Premier has a unit within his office which deals with all the public protector reports, AG's reports, SIU reports, and you could see that he has knowledge and control of what is happening compared to other provinces, which also we encourage them that it would help that they could have that, and then at least that will help them in managing or in dealing with issues of good governance.
I can't help, of course, but ask you about developments that are also in the public domain, because we can't shy away from them. Parliament saying that it's forging ahead with the impeachment process against you, and one of the things that you talk about in the court papers that you've launched in the Western Cape High Court, you're saying that this is a fundamental, the fundamental rights infringed in this matter, including the right to dignity, belong to you as the applicant and bearer of such rights. How so?
I've said a number of times that, I would want to go through the process, but the process must be fair. I'm also entitled to all the rights which are provided for in the Constitution, and I think the process should be fair in such a way that whoever will be subjected to the same process, my successor, any other Chapter 9 institution who would be facing the issues of possibly removal, they should also find that the rules are properly drafted, the rules are compliant, are lawful and are compliant to the Constitution. So that's the main purpose, Bongiwe. And as well, when that process then take its course, at least there are no instances where there would be gaps or litigation which is meant to derail the process. And unfortunately, we were writing to the Speaker, we were writing to the chairperson of the committee, and I don't think it's proper to say we don't have an interdict, therefore we are proceeding. But if we are writing, why can't we engage and make sure that we even avoid the very same issue of litigation? But unfortunately then that was not the issue. I think the matter will then have to be ventilated in court.
So in light of that, and also what you've said in the public domain about the fact that the letter did not come through to your office, and also even the predecessor did the same, and I'm speaking of the Speaker here, and in light of what you're saying that you've written to Parliament, how would you describe your relationship with the institution?
The institution, I would say the relationship is cordial.
And the Speaker?
As well, it's cordial as far as I'm concerned, because as far as I'm concerned, there's no need of, handling issues. I mean, I'm a call away as well. If it needs if the letter can't be sent to me, but to be informed, or even if it's not the Speaker, because remember when we report as a Chapter 9 institution, we are reporting about our activities to the Justice Portfolio Committee, or as well say to the chairperson of the Justice Committee, or even the very same chairperson. Public Protector, we are at this stage, we will be proceeding with this matter, or I'm going to write a letter, or I've written a letter to the President that we are proceeding. But we engage, we have a meeting. I think that would help, and that will avoid a number of unnecessary utilization of the courts, for the courts then to decide for the executive or for the legislature on things which we can resolve. Yeah.
Staying with relationships, how would you describe your relationship with the President?
The relationship with the President, I would say also, as far as I'm concerned, is cordial. Unfortunately, we never had an opportunity with the President since he became the President, the meeting requests, because, I mean, when you go now, Bongiwe, I think he was in the Free State when he was addressing the public in the Imbizos. We have all these reports as an institution which we can share with him, especially those reports we've issued, the remedies have not been implemented. I mean, there's a number of things which are still continuing where we've issued reports. For instance, the issue of the asylum seekers who are abusing the refugee system, for instance, which now is one of the things which people are labeled undocumented, or as well the issue that Home Affairs will say people are abusing the system. There is a report we've issued where, if that report is implemented, Standing Committee for Refugee Affairs is well capacitated, and Refugee Appeals Board, you wouldn't have people then overstaying in the country who are not people who are supposed to be receiving e-protection. I'm just giving you an example. Issues of sewage, I mean, we've visited provinces, we've issued reports, and if they are implemented, same applies to the Human Rights Commission, because I think those reports can be used to help them to improve e-governance in the country.
So I ask you about the Speaker and the President deliberately because of what you've said in your papers, is that you say that the President acted in a hurried fashion to implement the suspension proceedings against you. And you say, and I'd like to borrow from your papers, this supports my suspicion that the Speaker's equally premature letter was nothing but a clearly choreographed move to prompt the President and open the way for my unlawful suspension. So you say they conspired. Am I reading it correctly?
You know, the way the process has happened. Why write a letter? When we've written to the Speaker after the Constitutional Court judgment, when we heard that the committee will be proceeding or will be meeting, we wrote to the Speaker a day before and said, Speaker, we have the following request. We are applying for a rescission of that particular judgment. The Speaker then responded and said, no, you can't write to me. There is a committee already engaged, the chairperson of the committee, but what are you, or what grounds are you using to rescind the matter? Can you respond to us by 5 o'clock, I think? Indeed, we responded by 5 o'clock. The following day, the committee met, and the committee decided that they are proceeding irrespective. And we were saying to the Speaker, give us until the 11th, we will be submitting our rescission application. The Speaker on the 10th wrote a letter to the President.
So in light of the Speaker writing then to the President, I mean, the Constitution does give him the right when this process is beginning to then suspend you. But you're saying that he's conflicted, therefore he can't. So what does he do then in this case? Because there are some concerns, because we do know that some members of your office may be called to this particular inquiry. So how then does Parliament begin to do this in order to ensure that you don't interfere with the process potentially?
You know, the President, we wrote to him as well, informing him that you are conflicted. And he even acknowledged himself during the Busasa matter, in fact, during the earlier Western Cape matter, where he said he acknowledges that the matter is still before court and he's conflicted. He will request another member of the executive to proceed with the matter. So now he's proceeding and knowing for sure that there are investigations which are ongoing relating to the members of staff within the office who are there. Well, some of them are no longer within the office. Those who are still there, I mean, a process will be very fair. And they were complaining about the former CEO, that this former CEO was acting or was not acting properly against them. But one of the matters is relating to the very same officials, and the matter is before the Labour Court. But at the end of the day, there's nothing. If I wanted to purge them, or if I wanted to deal with them, I would do anything possible to do that. And there's nothing which will happen to interfere with them. But at the end of the day, I'm just saying, let's then resolve these two issues and let the process be fair in totality.
So, you remember, of course, that panel review that subsequently led us to this particular point where there's an impeachment process against you, was that you could not interpret the law correctly. You seemingly are incompetent, according to them, and they say that you lack the knowledge to carry out your duties. Do you believe, very briefly, we're out of time, do you believe that you're doing a good job?
I'm doing a good job. Bongi, out of the 412 reports we've issued, only 17 were set aside. And for that issue of the CX investigation, remember, it was even taken to the Court, and there is a minority judgment in that. And I had to pay personal costs. So, well, I don't know how many times must a person be punished. Remember as well, the very fact or the remedy which they are referring to about the mandate of the Reserve Bank, I withdrew the opposition to the matter. The court decided on that, and then I had to pay personal costs. And now there's also the issue of the pending perjury matters. So I don't know then what to say. and I must say this, that I gave example, and I will give example about a number of judges whose judgments are set aside by the Concord or by the SCA, but you will never find any time where a person will have to be removed because they are incompetent or they have applied the law wrongly. So I think in this particular issue, we will deliberate more anyway, because there would be an opportunity where I will have to state my case, where I'll have to present all the evidence, and where I will also have to show that the very same Concord judges and the very same chairperson of the panel, Judge Besin Kabinde, who also erred in other judgments where she applied the wrong code, which I'm said to have been or to have changed. So in the question of law, my decisions are reviewable by a court.
So I'm going to get into trouble for this because we're out of time, but in 10 seconds, you say you're being targeted. I've seen you in the media say that. You're being targeted by whom and why?
You know, the CX matter, the Reserve Bank issue, that investigation, that's where then my trouble started, because my life was under threat, and there's still various issues which are still happening even now, which I'm handling with the South African Police Services, where it's just a continuing issue. It means the Reserve Bank shouldn't be touched, and because that's where the matter started.
All right.
So I would say that Bongiwe, that's where my problem started.
I wish we had more time, but I'm calling for part 2 of this conversation so that we talk again about this particular matter, because there's quite a lot that is going to happen, and even as you head then to the courts. But let me leave it there with you for now, and thank you so much for coming. That was Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane.